What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie. I have a very special guest with us here today who's been in a bunch of horror movies, a bunch of cult classics like The X-Files, Watchmen. He's been in Deck the Halls. He's been in a whole bunch of movies, and he's actually produced a few movies, and he is here today to talk about a movie that he recently produced called 350 Days, which is basically based on wrestlers having to grind all year long, and we're going to dive into that subject. But first off, how you doing, Fulvio Cecere?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Greetings from beautiful, sunny, hot Vancouver, BC.
Yeah, I'm over here on the East Coast over by New York City, so it's been pretty hot on this side of the world as well.
I grew up there. I'm a Jersey boy myself.
Yeah, you know what? I've never actually been to the Jersey Shore since I was a little kid, but I've heard that it's actually gotten a lot better over the last couple of years.
I love the Jersey Shore. I've been going there since the 60s.
So,
and it was pretty great back then, too. Growing up as a kid, because I was born in Canada, but we used to travel from Montreal to Wildwood, New Jersey every summer.
So were you always a fan of wrestling, like even growing up, like as a little kid?
No, that's really the weird, funny thing. I strictly came on board this project as a director, as a filmmaker. I did, when I was a kid, obviously like wrestling, because I grew up in Montreal, and at the time, Grand Prix wrestling was so popular. And so, of course, I knew of Bruno Sammartino, and, who didn't know Andre the Giant. But, no, not really, because I remember we left New Jersey, I think, in 1973, moved to the States, and then it was all about, the New York Giants. It was all about football and American sports, and I just never really got into wrestling, although I did wrestle in high school.
So you actually went to law school, right? Like, you had no direction in any of that. You originally went into law school, then you ended up leaving law school you went through law school, but you came out, ended up not even doing that. You ended up wanting to act.
It was, the funny thing is that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to get a law degree. And the funny thing is, school was usually kind of pretty easy for me. And college, went through it, was quite the breeze. I'm like, I'll just go to law school and ace that. I get to law school and it's like, holy crap, this is hard. It's like, what am I doing here? This is not what I want to do. So I went from New Jersey to California, to LA. That's where I went to law school. And when I was a kid, I had acted in the 6th and 7th grade plays. And so that was always in the back of my mind. I always wanted to be an actor. So I basically went from law school to parking cars and taking acting classes.
So I really want to jump into the meat of things because I'm really curious about a lot here. Well, this is how pretty much I found out about us doing our interview, was through one of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling who kind of put me onto the project that you're working on right now. So I kind of want to rewind here, and this might be out of order, but how did you get in contact with the Glow Girls, and how are they familiar with you through this project?
Well, it's so funny. It was just really a coincidence because Sunny, the California girl, who was one of the original Glow Girls, she had friended me on LinkedIn, like, before I had finished the project, and I thought she knew that I was the director of a documentary about pro wrestling, and find out she didn't know that. So that was really a weird coincidence. But when I got done and decided that I was going to have my premiere in Hollywood, and we were going to have one in New York, I'm like, well, let me reach out to her. Let me see if she'd like to attend. She immediately said yes, and I think the same day she wrote me back, and she had another 4 of them. So I had 5 Glow Girls all in one day. And I think a total of 8 of them actually showed up at the premiere. So that was pretty awesome.
And which is really huge, especially with like Netflix right now having not just the documentary on them, but there's also a series on the original Glow Girls that's kind of not really about the original Glow Girls, but is, and it is like gonna hype them up, obviously. So jumping into things,
the weird thing, if I may, is I had no idea what Glow was. I actually saw the show on Netflix. I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. Then I saw that there was a documentary about it, and I'm like, what? That this is actually real? And so I watched the documentary. It was really awesome. And then I watched the second season of Glow. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I got to say this. About the documentary, I cried every time I watched it.
When you watch Glow Girls or the documentary?
When I watch the documentary and get towards the end and you find out about...
Oh, yeah.
About, oh my goodness, the Hawaiian girl.
Mount Fiji?
Mount Fiji, yeah. And she recently just passed away recently. And me and the California girl were talking about it, which is very upsetting. But I thought those guys did an amazing job on that documentary, so I'm glad that you brought that up. What kind of inspired you to want to reach out and interview some of these wrestling guys?
Well, it wasn't my idea. It was, so I worked on a movie called Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe. It was a boxing movie, and the technical advisor on that was Angelo Dundee, who was Muhammad Ali's trainer and manager. And so we became very, very good friends, and I went to the Boxing Hall of Fame in New York State a couple times with him, and the last time I went there, I met Darren, who was the cut man for Lou Duva, another equally famous manager from New Jersey. And he had been working on this other project, so he asked me if I would help him on that, and we worked on that for a little bit. That didn't go anywhere. Worked on another project that didn't go anywhere. But he had this idea about, because he's a big, big wrestling fan, and had access to all these guys. And he'd been to a lot of these signings, and a lot of his friends were like agents, and they would bring these guys in for signings. And so, I'm like, wow, well, if you have access to all these guys, you might be onto something here. You know, I think maybe I should direct this. And so I went out, I started calling in a bunch of favors, and got a really great crew together for as little money as we could, because we were just going to, check it out, see if, what it looks like. And the first weekend was just absolute gold. We had superstar Billy Graham, we had Greg the Hammer Valentine, we had Tito Santana. It was just nuts. They were so open and honest, and I had no idea about wrestling really. So I'm thinking, whoa, you're talking about steroids and sex and adultery, like you're on camera, right? This is for posterity here, and they let everything out on the table. It was so awesome. I just can't tell you how awesome it was.
So what are some of the things that they're going to see inside this documentary here once they tune into it? Because you got some really big names on there, and there's been a lot of recent news, especially with the Reinhardts. So that's definitely going to help pique the interest on a sadder note. But it seems like you got Bret the Hitman Hart in there. Is that what I'm seeing in the on the cover of it?
Bret is probably our big star. He was just absolutely phenomenal. Just an encyclopedia of knowledge, and so humble and gracious. I interviewed him for like 8-9 hours. I flew to Calgary to interview him there, and he welcomed me to his home. It was just, I just can't speak highly enough. He's just such a great guy. So to go back to Jim, the Anvil. We didn't get a chance to interview him, but so far 13 of the people that we've interviewed have passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in a weird way. I feel so grateful because we most likely have their last interviews. Because a lot of them were old. A lot of them had been living in obscurity, and I just lucked out by finding where they were, like. The Wolfman, for example, who had been quite popular back in the 70s, living in a small apartment in Toronto, and I just totally got lucky finding him. He passed away. Don Fargo, fabulous Fargo brothers, and he was selling out Madison Square Garden in 1960. Can you imagine that? Wrestlers selling out Madison Square Garden. It's like, that's just so badass, And you could tell he'd lived like a really tough life, after wrestling, because he had the prison tear on his tattooed on his face, and he lived a rough life, and he was so great.
That style's actually coming back in. that style's coming back in. The face tattoos, everyone's getting those now. So
that's
represent.
True. I know. I should get one.
And then in 10 years, you're gonna be like, oh damn, I really shouldn't have done that. You know, I feel like a lot of guys are gonna feel that way. But it seems like you got a lot of huge names on here. I see you guys spoke to Stone Cold Steve Austin as well.
No.
So I'm looking.
Steve, there were some people. It's funny you say that because you're probably thinking of Paul Lazenby. Paul Lazenby is Stone Cold's stunt double on a few movies that he shot up here in Vancouver, and he was also a 3-time Canadian kickboxing champ, heavyweight boxing or not boxing, kickboxing champ. And he looks a lot like Stone Cold. He's in the movie. We interviewed 72 people altogether, and 38 of them, I think, made the cut. So there's a lot left for the director's cut, which I hope to do one day. But yeah, with 38 and just like real legends. I mean, superstars like $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, George the Animal Steele. I mean, how iconic is that with his Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man and the Masked Avenger, the Masked Superstar, Bill Eadie, Abdullah the Butcher, Tito Santana. One of the all-time great baby faces. I mean, we got so lucky. There's so many great people in there.
Diving into this world, did you realize, like, have you ever seen the movie The Wrestler with, I forgot the actor's name?
Absolutely. It's a tremendous movie. I think maybe one of Mickey Rourke's absolute best movies ever. And I love him. That's saying a lot because he's been so good in so many movies. But, yeah, absolutely a classic. And, and it's funny that you mentioned The Wrestler because The Wrestler, a lot of people think, is a movie about wrestling, and it's not. I always say this. It's a movie about a father and his relationship with his daughter. They just happen to be in the wrestling world. And it's the same thing with our story because this is a real human interest story. It's not about wrestling. It is about life on the road during the territory days and what these guys went through. But what they went through is what all of us go through. The separation from family, being away, missing your daughter's birthday, the grind of the travel from one city to another, the drugs, the fight, the adultery. If you're sports, if you're in sports, possibly you're using steroids. I mean, all of this stuff that people wouldn't talk about, they're all talking about it. Like they're superstars, like rattling off like a laundry list of all the steroids he was taking. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like. I mean, I remember the whole scandal and Vince McMahon and all that, and baseball players taking steroids. What a big deal it was, and here I am recording this, and he's just like rattling them off with absolutely no
filter.
Yeah, that's what made this so awesome because it's so candid, it's so honest, it's so real. This is their legacy. That they want this to be known. This is what it was like on the road. We had no money. We'd buy some bread and bologna, and that's what got us through to the next town. We couldn't even afford McDonald's, and people think it's this glamorous lifestyle. It wasn't back then. It was grueling. So you being an actor, could you really have like an open mind to like, wow, these guys are really putting their bodies through all this? Like a lot of people don't give them credit for being athletes, not only actors, but athletes. So it's kind of like a whole new respect when you really understand and get a grip of what actually goes on behind the scenes. Like you think they're all superstars living this great life, but like you said, everyone feels pain and everyone has heartache, and the highs come with the lows, which is something really awesome about watching documentaries, which it seems like this documentary kind of captured all that behind the scenes stuff that people really want to hear, like that meaty stuff that makes it real and relatable. Well, when you're sitting in a theater and you have a crowd full of of former wrestlers, MMA, UFC, and some of them are crying. I think I touched the nerve. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Because it's so heartfelt. Like they know what it's like. So I think the younger guys will get a real appreciation of knowing what the older guys went through, and then on top of that, I mean, look at the athleticism of the new guys. They're doing things that the old guys they had no idea of or physically capable of doing. But to go back to the athleticism part that you were saying, one of the things I took away most from this project is how all-encompassing these guys are. I mean, as an actor, I memorize my lines, I get in front of a camera, I do my job, I'm good at what I do. These guys have to be good on the mic, right? They have to sell the story. They have to be so great at improv. They've got these outlandish costumes, just like in Japan, the kabuki theater. In a way, it's a soap opera. It's creating drama. They're choreographers. They're stuntmen. They're directing their own scenes, right? There's just so much going on in each match, and of course, the better they are, the higher, the art is. I mean, there's a lot of stiff guys, and some are pretty bad, but like a Bret Hart. I mean, my God, that's art right there. That's perfection.
And you know what? Another thing is, like, you see a lot of superstars crossing over and trying to get into that life. And that's why I was just tonight doing a reaction video to Ronda Rousey, and it kind of opened my eyes up. I'm like, well, she got the whole walkout down, but the acting part of it and trying to make it seem real every night and having new story scripts every night. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Just not even just the acting, just the writers who have to come up with all these fresh ideas night after night and what these guys are putting their bodies through. Is that kind of what gave you inspiration for the name 350 Days? Or how did 350 Days come about? How did you guys decide on that name?
Well, that was Darren's idea. That was the name of the project, but it's an actual thing. Our first question that every single wrestler that we ask is, what does 350 mean to you? And they all know, because they live that life. They know exactly what you're talking about. But it would be a different response in each one. It'd be like, oh yeah, that means being on the road, missing my daughter's birthday, or superstars saying, oh yeah, that means another promoter taking advantage of you, because 350 days is the amount of time they spent, the amount of times that they wrestled a year. That not all of them, but that was kind of about the amount. Like even Bret Hart, he said it was closer to 220, 230 a year. Well, that's pretty close to 350. So can you imagine wrestling 350 times a year? And you have to, because you're making $20, $30 a match. And then you have to get up and, you get up, you're hungover, you go to the gym, you work out, you get in the car, you travel 200 miles, you wrestle, you go through the whole thing, and you party at night, you get up, you're hungover, and you repeat this for 350 times. And I keep saying this in every interview. It's so funny. I interviewed Don Leo Jonathan, who was a really famous wrestler back in the 70s, and he just laughed at me when I said 350, because there was one stretch of time he wrestled for 7 years straight without a day off.
Wow.
Christmas and Thanksgiving were called family days, and they'd have the family with them. But he did not have a day off in 7 years. I mean, that's just crazy, right? Either you love it so much, or, man, you got to work that hard, to make a living, survive. But he also was a superstar at the time, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with the amount of time he had to work.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's another thing that really blows my mind about all of this is, like, back in the 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s, like, you know, these guys were huge, like, rock stars, and I don't think they were tested for, like, cocaine or steroids back then. Like, I don't think anyone really cared until, like, the early 2000s, I believe. So the stories in the documentary, it sounds like, are going to be really crazy and personal. It seems like a lot of these guys that were in that era, they really lived, like, a rock star lifestyle, and you can see kind of the toll that it's put on a lot of their bodies over the years.
You hit it right on the head. There's so many of them that talk about that, and not really in a negative way. How, you know, coke actually, you know, drew the guys closer together, and you know, and smoking a lot of pot. And you know, when Vince McMahon banned smoking pot, you know, but Bret Hart said that was a mistake, because now people are going to start drinking heavily. We're going to start popping pills.
Wow.
And
yeah.
you know, and he was right.
Yeah, I did. I'm totally on board with that. I didn't know that about Bret Hart. That's some real shit right there. That's some stuff that speaking the truth there. It makes no sense to ban it.
You have no idea. He's so open, and oh man, he's our superstar for sure, and superstar.
And you know what? His family, people don't realize, like, Natty is part of the family as well. She's still wrestling. They have a lot of people that are still active. And recently with this whole death that came of as late, I don't really know much about him. But what can you say, since it's such recent news, something that stood out about him that you can mention here?
About Bret?
About Reinhardt, the one who passed away that we were just speaking about?
You know, I really don't know. I'm kind of in the dark. I heard it had something to do with possibly a seizure, and then like he fell because of the seizure, but it's not for sure. So I don't know.
That's so scary.
But, I mean, it's way too young.
That's one of wrestling's like royal families. That's literally wrestling's royal family right there.
And we have a whole tribute to his dad in the documentary, and I also, you know, he wasn't in the actual documentary, but I interviewed Smith Hart, who passed away. I've interviewed Ross Hart. I've been on Bruce Hart's radio station several times. Just a great family. Just legendary. Yeah, it just breaks my heart that they're going through that.
So before we let you go here, I got one more question for you. Being an actor, well, first, even before we talk about that, let me say this. Where can people catch the interview at, or the documentary at 350 Days?
Well, so July 12th, we had a one-night-only screening through Fathom Events, which is a big deal. If these guys are real high-class entertainment group, and they only do, like, the best of the best. And so we're in almost 400 theaters for one night. So that was our theatrical run. And now we're in talks trying to get it into Canadian theaters, international theaters, and then ultimately it'll be going to cable, and then further down the road to Netflix. So it's all in the works. I don't have any dates or specifics, but working hard at it, because I want the world to see it. The reaction, the buzz, the press, people reaching out within the wrestling community. So many people have heard about it. I did an hour podcast with Chris Jericho, and everybody is reaching out, and they all want to see it. So I know that I've definitely I've tapped a nerve for sure.
Well, these are the interviews that people want to know about, like the nitty-gritty, getting in between, the behind-the-scenes stuff. You know, that's just the human cult. That's just like the human way of wanting to know the dramatics of things. That's why documentaries are so appealing to a lot of people. So before we let you go, I got to ask you, what's one movie that you've been in that people should go check out that you're most proud of as your role? Or show. Wow. Movie or show.
You know, it's so tough to say. I mean, I'm so incredibly proud of Cinderella Man, for sure, because, I mean, I love boxing, and as a matter of fact, so Cinderella Man was based on James Braddock, who upset Max Baer. That was a huge match back in the 30s, and it's kind of like Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson. That's how big it was. And they're about, I think in October, or maybe September, they're actually going to raise a statue of James Braddock in New Jersey.
Wow.
at Art there across from New York City. But I mean, not only did I get a chance to work with Russell Crowe and Ron Howard, it's just such a great story, and that's an all-time high. I love that. But there's so many great things that I've been a part of.
Yeah, you've got a huge list here.
TV.
Yeah, you've got a long list. You're like a cult classic.
Yeah,
You're in a lot of cult classics.
Pretty lucky.
So obviously, before we let you go, I want to thank the Glow Girls for helping me get into contact with you. And guys, make sure to keep your eyes out for 350 Days. Fulvio Cecere, thank you so much for joining me on Pure Evil MMA. I cannot wait to see the documentary. Have a blessed night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
There you go, guys. That was really cool. First, or not the first Hollywood actor that we've had on Pure Evil MMA before. We've actually had Aaron O'Brien on before, but this is a whole new level. Have you seen the list of movies that he is on? I really wanted to dive into more of his acting, but I promised him, 20 minutes max. I know it's late over there. It's late over here as well, but just look at, like, he's been in Beauty and the Beast, Timeless, Damien, Flower Shop Mystery, Mums the World, Hipster Horror House. I believe he helped produce that, or that's his film. Continuum, Unreal, iZombie. That's a huge name, iZombie. The Flash. Let's see what else here. The 100. Elementary, The Trainer, 666 Park Ave. Abducted, The Listener, Grimm. That's huge. Lost Girl, another huge one. Breakout Kings. Man, he's been in so many films and shows. This is ridiculous. The Good Wife, Case 39. Watchmen, he played Agent Forbes. Just look at this. And look how long this list is. There's maybe 200 films stretching all the way back to 1993 with Street Justice. He played Anthony. Judgment Day, The Disappearance of Vonnie. Dangerous Intention. So let's see what was the first big... The X-Files seems like a big one that was probably in first right here. Let's see the X-Files. He played the priest in The Aid in 2 episodes. That's pretty badass. So let's see, 1994 and 1995. And I believe X-Files is on Netflix right now if you want to go check that out. But let's see what else is on here that he's in that you guys can, check out maybe on Netflix. Because that's pretty sick. Abducted, Viper. Let's see. Contagious. Why does that sound familiar to me? Highlander. That's a huge one, right? It's in a couple episodes for Highlander. See No Evil. I like that name. Let's see. The Advocate's Devil. Play on words there. Outrage. Dirty. This is just 1998. Jag. He was in Jag. This is cool, man. This is awesome having people on the show. He was in The Net. Just kind of branch out. Like, this is a UFC show, MMA show. By the way, Bellator was on tonight. Did not catch it. I will be 100% with you guys. I did not catch it. Look at Cold Squad, Mercy. Shout out to Mercy. This is really interesting. Valentine, Final Jeopardy. Wow, what an honor to have him on. Smallville, Taken, NYPD Blue. Tarzan. He was on a bunch of Tarzans as Detective Gene Taylor. Guys, I saw somebody send me a DM before asking what happened on the last live stream. Little drama. I got that text message, had to run out, pick up a car because there was a little drama that happened. All right, let's go. Blade. He was in Blade the series. But guys, I really want to see 350 Days. And now with the way that the internet is, it would be a shocker if it doesn't end up on either Netflix or Amazon or Apple, somewhere for us to catch it. Hopefully that's going to be going soon because I've heard a lot of raving about it. Oscar did a great job being quiet. Oscar, you should sit in your seat, bro. That's like Oscar's throne over here, but this is where he's sitting right now. See him on top of the couch? Oscar! Here's the studio, a little 360 look here. All right, but let me sign off on this live stream, guys. So tonight is Friday. Tomorrow night Saturday, obviously, and I will be ringside for Cage Titans. So I'm looking forward to that. Chris O'Brien versus Matt Miena for the title. Also upcoming, we have merch that's actually released right now at teespring.com. That link is actually right down here below in the description here on the live stream or the podcast. It's at teespring.com/pureevilsummer. And some new designs, some switching it up, keeping it fresh. But also I'm meeting an artist, a local artist under the name Free Filth, Brian Gilson, who is going to be designing some brand new merch for Pure Evil MMA and Gloves Off. And this is a cartoonist. I will actually give you his tag. Or let me pull his tag up for everybody because his artwork is really sick. Let's see here. So on Instagram, I think it's just at Free Filth. Yeah, at Free Filth. FREEFILTH. And he's got some pretty cool designs here, as you can see. I don't know how good my webcam's going to pick up on that. But I'm really excited to see what he's got in store. I'm going to go pitch some ideas at the coffee shop to him down in the city. This is going to be a lot of fun. But for right now, we have the OG Pure Evil MMA Evil Eddie cartoon with the old tongue out and the strap, the old podcast strap. Nominated Best Podcast 2017 for MMA News at My MMA News. And also at MMA Sucka, I believe, for last year. We were nominated. I believe MMA Sucka. I got it saved somewhere in the phone. But we were nominated twice last year for podcasts, which is huge. I'm really hoping to get nominated once again this year. And for us to be able to do that, I got my side grapes right here. Got grapes on the side. If you eat anything else, it just gets your mouth all creamy. Grapes are nice and clean on the palate, especially for broadcasting. Keep it nice and refreshed. But yeah, we're going to have some new merch coming out. Also, guys, I lowered all the prices on everything. There's only 20, or probably at this point, I think like 16 days left. We got mugs. We got stickers for just $4. Teespring.com/pureevilsummer. Last but not least, guys, before I sign off, I want to thank everybody that has recently joined Pure Evil MMA because we have 100 new subscribers here on the channel. So thank you so much. If you are new to watching this tonight, make sure you subscribe down below because we are branching off and doing brand new, kind of branching off from the MMA thing. We still are doing MMA, but I'm starting to do some more videos and get more YouTube friendly to grow the channel here. So catch some of the latest projects that I've been working on, including the live action fight companion, which I did for Lion Fight 45, also CES 51, tomorrow for Cage Titans. That's going to be another blast. And guys, you can find all of my content, articles, whatever, at mymmanews.com. Remember, without evil, there's no purity. Have a good night, guys. Behave yourselves.